Hello guys and welcome to my channel. My name is Tina aka Tokyo Diaries. Today I want to talk about how you can find a job in Japan. I thought I'd start this off with first of all introducing myself and telling you how I found my job in Japan and what background I have. And then at the end of the video I thought I'd talk about certain questions that basically everyone has who wants to work in Japan, like for example, do you need a bachelor, do you need a BA? Don't forget, if you like this video, to like it and to subscribe. So first of all, let me tell you something about myself. I came to Japan for the first time in 2008, which is like a while ago, because I studied Japanese studies at university in Germany. I got a BA and I got my master's degree there. I learned Japanese at university and I came here to improve my Japanese. So I graduated in 2015 then, I guess. I don't know. And I have a master's degree in Japanese studies and German as a foreign language. German as a foreign language makes you basically a German teacher. I worked part-time as an English teacher, as a German and as partly a Japanese teacher assistant, something like that. Spoiler alert, I'm not a teacher because this experience also made me realize that I don't want to become a teacher, or I thought to myself like it would have been my last resort if I would not have found my current job. So now let me tell you about my experience actually applying here in Tokyo. So I was already here, so that's a plus point too. I remember that I applied back then at a bigger company in Tokyo. I won't say their name, but two of my friends were working there back then. I was interested in working there myself and I knew a little bit about it, and I knew from my friends that the working conditions were kind of okay. If you apply at a bigger company, you probably have to do a couple of different interviews. So I had like 3 interviews and then there were a couple of meetings in which they were also asking questions, or we could ask questions, telling us more about the company, the working conditions, just probably getting to know us better, I think. I got to the last interview and it's still something in my life where I think like, if I had gotten into this company, how would my life look like? I would have had a totally different career path. I applied back then at some companies as a web designer. If you're not new to my channel, you know that in my free time I'm drawing, and because of that I also teach myself how to use Photoshop, and I also try to learn Illustrator and things like that. So, and if you can use Photoshop to a certain extent and Illustrator to a certain extent, you have already the 2 basic qualifications that you need to apply for a basic job as a web designer, like entry level. I would recommend you, if you're searching for a job, no matter if you're searching for a job in Japan or somewhere else, talk to as many people as possible, tell them you're searching for a job, and ask them about what they are doing, how they got their job, and ask them maybe even for help. For example, when I applied at this bigger company, I told you my 2 of my friends were working there, and I asked one of them to help me prepare for the interview. If you don't have many skills yet, or if you don't have the necessary skills that you maybe need for a certain type of job, I don't know, I would recommend you to apply at a bigger company. Bigger companies have the capacity to train you. However, when you apply at smaller companies, chances are high that they won't do that, that you already need several years of experience. But if you are like me and you know nothing, like Jon Snow, then maybe you might want to apply at one of the... There are so many super big companies in Tokyo. Here is another tip for you if you want to find a job in Japan and you don't have many skills qualifications whatsoever yet. Start off in Tokyo, because here you have a lot of big companies that you won't find in other cities in Japan. I remember I applied at this bigger company, then I applied at a couple of smaller companies, but they have less interviews. You only have like 2 interviews at most smaller companies. Every person I met back then, I told that I was searching for a job, and I told them about my situation. Actually, that worked. So my tip is always talk to a lot of people rather than just applying randomly at a couple of different companies. And one of my friends was actually like, yeah, you know, our office is currently hiring, why don't you try to apply? And I was asking her about her job, and I thought, at first I thought, this sounds super difficult, are you sure I can do that? I had not much confidence in myself, but I tried it anyway, and I applied a regular way on the website. They had the advertisement on. I applied there and I sent them my resume, and they invited me for an interview. I had 2 interviews, and I remember I was talking to my boss, I was talking to some coworkers back then, and I had a test. They made me do a test, like a written test. And the written test was super difficult. Like, that was like old Japanese. They presented old Japanese in front of me and wanted me to read that and answer some questions about that. And I probably totally failed that one. The interview itself went well. All of my interviews were in Japanese. Except for like one part at the place I'm working right now, they had, most of it was in Japanese, but then one part was in English. I bought 1 or 2 books about interviews, and in those books they had written some like questions and answers that you should give and answers that you shouldn't give. Like books like that help you prepare for your interviews, and I would recommend that, for example. And then I would recommend you write down the most common questions that you will get. Like, for example, why did you apply at our company? I wrote everything down for myself. I don't know if that helps you in any way. But what I did is I wrote a couple of questions down that I thought might come. And then I wrote my answers and I practiced that. So if this question really was going to be in the interview, I was like, yeah, I know what I'm going to tell you. And I knew that my answer would be good. My strategy was to apply only at a couple of places, but prepare myself for the interview as good as possible. So a little bit about my job that I have right now. I have a job that not many foreigners in Japan, I think, have, and that is like a normal office job. I know one of my friends works at an office. It's called Office Lady OL also, and it sounds easy. It's not actually really that difficult, but it depends on where you work, what kind of office it is. It's an international office also, so most of my co-workers are Japanese, but the place I'm working at is pretty open towards foreigners, I would say. I remember that the first 6 months I did overtime every single day. It wasn't much. Like, you can get a job at a company here in Japan and you have to work overtime like a couple of hours every day. That can happen as well. It really depends. But my job, it was more like 1 hour every day, 1.5, maybe max 2 hours overtime in the first 6 months. Because I needed to get used to my job, I was really slow. I had absolutely no idea what I was doing. Now I would say I'm quite comfortable doing what I'm doing. I get paid like a normal amount. Like, if you work at an office job, that's often the case for office jobs. You often don't have overtime and you often get paid a regular salary. That's not very high. But at my place, for sure we will get a bonus. Like, bonus is not 100% guaranteed. If a workplace in Japan tells you they will pay you a bonus, they can tell you that how often they want. It's not 100% guaranteed that you will get it. It's not legally binding. So if you want to find a job in Japan, look more for the salary. Look more how high the salary actually is. That is my experience about finding a job, and that is, I think, everything I can tell you about my job. I very much hope this part was already a little bit useful for you, and now I want to answer some of the questions that are always asked about finding a job in Japan. But keep in mind that this video is only me telling you what I think. One question that foreigners always want to know, I think, is, do you need Japanese to work in Japan, or how important it is? And I would say definitely no. There are enough companies in Tokyo where you don't need it. And I'm not only talking about teaching jobs. Of course, number one, teaching jobs. If you don't speak Japanese and you want to work here, if you're from Germany, as a German teacher, I would recommend to do that. You can always become an English teacher as well, but they prefer native speakers. I heard many people say that it's difficult to get out of that kind of job if you are already a teacher. So I heard that. So maybe you should be aware of that. If you start off as a teacher, it might be hard for you to change jobs later. But I think the problem is that if you are already in one job for a couple of years, you cannot apply for entry level anymore. If you have work experience, it's basically like starting in the middle. So you need already a certain set of skills to change your job from teaching to something else. I will link under this video some websites where you can search for jobs in Japan. And you can check out these websites even if you are still in your country. If you can't come to Japan right now, like, it's of course better to be in Japan, but if you can't come to Japan right now, check out all of these websites and check what kind of jobs there are, what what the requirements are, and what you can do. And you can prepare by just like teaching yourself the necessary skills. And that leads me to my second question that many foreigners are asking: do you need to be in Japan for that? Definitely yes. Nowadays it might be slightly different because of COVID and because remote work is more common now in Japan, even though I think in general I would recommend you to be here. Because even if you get this job in your country, and even if it's a remote job, or even if you don't need to be here to apply for this job, I don't know about you, but not only about teaching jobs, but about jobs in general in Japan, I heard some horror stories. There's this big thing, overtime in Japan. And there are other stories as well, like they are promising you a bonus and you don't get it paid. And there are so many different troubles or problems that you might have, that I would highly recommend you to be in Japan when you apply, and to go to that company and to have this interview like in person, and to check out like where you are working, in which area, and how the company looks like. You might need a health examination. I remember when I applied at my office that I needed a simple health examination. It wasn't difficult, like a very expensive one. You just go maybe to the next best clinic, doctor, whatever, and get like just a regular blood test or whatever, I don't know, like very simple. But that might not be the case for every company. It was just like for me. And I think like it's a Japanese thing, because you have to do this health examination every year at your company, and maybe other companies want this kind of certificate right from the start as well. The other thing you might need is a guarantor. I don't know if I pronounced that right. Guarantor. When you're searching for apartments, you might need one. And my current place has a company that acts as a guarantor for me. I have to pay them money every year. This can also happen when you apply for a job in Japan. Happened to me. And I asked the husband of one of my friends it needs to be a Japanese person who is living in Japan. Another question that foreigners are asking who want to work in Japan: do you need a bachelor, BA? And again, I would say yes and no. Like just recently I talked to someone, I think on Twitter, and she was telling me that she found a job without a BA, which is interesting. You can definitely find a job without a BA. However, I remember in her case, she had a certain set of skills already. So if you don't have a BA and you don't have any particular skills that are useful for whatever job you want to do, then it's probably not going to work. You should have a BA. Many companies want one. Also, not all places sponsor your visa in Japan. If you're searching for a job in Japan, check if they have that in their advertisement, if they sponsor your visa or not. You can also try to apply, I think, for your visa yourself. There's a self-sponsorship, I think, for people who are, for example, working as a freelancer. You can also study in Japan. Actually, I know one or two people who graduated here in Japan at a Japanese university. I'm not sure how they paid for everything. I know one of my friends, she's studying here and she's working part-time on the side. So you can, for example, try to find a part-time job while studying and try to pay everything with this, or save up money, then come to Japan, study, especially for the tuition fee if you want to study in Japan and make your bachelor here. I would say like an average, like something about 5,000 euro for 1 year maybe. And you can go to language schools as well, but then you won't have this bachelor at the end. But you can also try to find places at language schools and get like a I don't know, is that a student visa then probably? Or working holiday. For Germans you have to be younger than 30 to apply for a working holiday visa. Jobs that are common, that foreigners often do here in Japan. Number one, teaching jobs. There are those two programs, JET and ALT, and you probably have heard about them. There are a couple of foreigners here who have done that. That are teaching programs where you get paid for teaching in a certain area in Japan, and you won't end up in Tokyo. Chances are high that you will end up somewhere else. One of my friends has done that, and she told me that she earned quite a bit of money and she did not spend as much because she wasn't living in Tokyo, because you are in a different area. Other jobs that many foreigners are IT jobs, like engineering. I know they are searching for that a lot here in Tokyo, especially. There are, as I mentioned, so many bigger companies who need engineers or something in the IT sector. And then also web design is one of those categories. Then you can work like me at an office. There are a couple of office jobs, and my office jobs is like a particular job in a particular field. However, there should be also more like general jobs, because the good thing about office jobs is they pay a regular salary. It's not that much, but you don't have overtime. If you prefer to have a lot of free time, then I would recommend it. You have always the chance of working part-time here and there and doing something else on the side, like studying and working part-time, or going to language school working part-time, or just like searching for a couple of different part-time jobs here and there. Modeling can be an option, and you need some experience and to get into modeling in Japan, but it can be a good part-time thing. Don't do it full-time. I wouldn't recommend try to be a model full-time. You need to be really good, have several sources of income. There is a certain amount of competition, even though as a foreigner you stand out and you have a good chance of finding some model jobs. If you want me to talk about one of the things I mentioned in this video or something else in detail, let me know in the comments. And don't forget to check out all the links in the description box below. Take some time, if you really want to work in Japan, take some time first to check out all those websites. Make yourself 1 or 2 accounts and then check regularly what kind of jobs they offer as a preparation, and then yeah, get started. And I wish you good luck with whatever. And if you have really like a specific question, please leave them just in the comment section. I will answer. My channel isn't that big. I'm going to answer all of your comments. Right? Okay, so thanks for watching. I hope this video helped you.